you check the children.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes that is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird.
And you got Jaime and Fuego here.
And we are here to do another brand spanking new movie review. This is, well, okay, you can clap right into the microphone. Good,
Sorry.
thanks. I'll have to manage that in post.
I'm
Guys,
spanking.
we are here to discuss the brand new Edgar Wright film, Last Night in Soho. Now, this is not what I would say is your typical Edgar Wright film. It is definitely of a different tone and flavor than he's delivered before. It's still visually fantastic, but it's not necessarily one of the eminently rewatchable Edgar Wright films that I believe most of his films tend to be. So while I believe it was a really good movie, a very well made movie, terrifically acted movie, I don't think it was my favorite movie. It was okay. It was good. It was a good movie. But yeah, it just didn't really knock my socks off like a lot of his movies do.
Yeah, and continue with overall thoughts, obviously. Edgar had prefaced this as being his attempt at making like a horror movie. And so his stuff is usually pretty, even Baby Driver, despite the fact that, yes, it did have more of a sense of seriousness to it, there's still an essence of whimsy and just fun to most of his movies. And that's not to say that it's not here at times, but this was like the least fun of his films. It's definitely not like the stuff he did, Shaun of the Dead, that Hot Fuzz.
It's not like the Cornetto trilogy.
Exactly. Yeah. I was fishing for what the name of that was and stuff, and obviously Scott Pilgrim, but yet at the same time, I thought performances from our two lady leads between Thomason and Anya Taylor were both really great.
Matt Smith was terrific.
Yeah, and he always dazzles me as a villain.
He's very good.
He was a doctor.
He's a fantastic
he was a doctor, right?
Yeah. But man, does he do evil well.
Yeah, he's got a very just dark edge to him at times, and he's great in this. You see it in the trailers, and so yeah, the acting was top notch, and especially the one thing Edgar has exceeded expectations and continued to do once again here for me was from a visual standpoint, just the way this is shot, the way characters mirror each other, and you see that in the trailers too.
The filmmaking is beyond
stellar.
the pale here.
Stylistically stellar, I think, is what I told the lady when we were leaving the press screening. So I get the feeling I liked it more than you. I'm not going to say I loved it, but I was really impressed with it. So
I think we just are saying maybe the same thing, just through slightly different lenses, you know? Like, you didn't love it. I certainly didn't not like it. I mean, I enjoyed, like I said, when I walked out, and initially I was thinking, that was a really well-told story. I was engaged the entire time. There were a couple of times where I found myself thinking, I kind of want to check my watch. We're getting a little long in the tooth here, because there are some certainly repetitive scenes. While those scenes are escalating situations, there's a lot of repetition and stuff like that as well, that I feel like he maybe could have shaved off 10 minutes of this. Yeah. It was an hour and 56 minutes, and I feel like it didn't need to be tremendously shorter, but it could have stood to be a little bit tighter, I feel like. But, you know, the story, well, why don't you go ahead and tell the story real quick?
Yeah, so the story, we have Thomasin McKenzie, and she is similar to where Anya Taylor-Joy was a couple of years ago. She is a new rising star, you know, especially over in the UK. I think she's Irish or Scottish, I can't recall, but specifics though, she was in Jojo Rabbit, she was most recently seen in Old, the M. Night Shyamalan movie, she was in a great film with Ben Foster where they were living off the grid in the redwoods in Northern California, and so yeah, she is amassing a very intriguing repertoire, and yet she is pretty much front and center in this one, and she is a girl obsessed with the 60s, and she has a mother who inspired her and a grandmother as well, so she is like third in line as far as wanting to work within the fashion industry. She gets accepted to this school in London to do fashion design, so not modeling. She wants to actually be somebody who is stylistically creating the stuff that these models are wearing.
Fashion designer, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, she is about to, as you see in the trailers, live her dream, and she relocates to London, and yet quickly finds out that being in the big city, especially coming from, you know, a small area in Britain, is a lot more difficult than you may have initially, because you go in with the wide eyes. It's very similar to friends of mine that I know moved to LA or New York or Chicago or whatever when they came from smaller places, and she experiences some cruelty, she experiences some just all around difficulty, but she moves into this new flat, and there is a extensive history about it, and it has that 60s flair that she is obsessed with, and she starts, as you see in the trailers, once again, because we're not trying to spoil any of this, guys, there is an overlapping, like, correlation of sorts between what she is experiencing and things that she is reliving that somebody else who lived in that same room did as well back in the 60s, played by Anya Taylor-Joy, and so they are mirror characters to a degree, and she is seeing a lot of stuff through her eyes, including some crimes and some nasty stuff that once we get to the third act, it really starts to unravel. And in a lot of ways, it turns into a drastically different movie in the third act, and I don't fault it for that. It's kind of, dare I say, a payoff, you know, and a pretty solid one, too, for me. So I was pleased. How about you, man?
Yeah, the story was super engaging, I thought. That was one of the most interesting things about the film. I mean, the acting really carried everything, but the story overall is why I was engaged the entire time. Like, I felt it dragged a little bit a couple of times, but it didn't affect my overall enjoyment of the film because I was so engaged with the story. So I liked how it played out. Like, I didn't know what to expect. I knew it was supposed to be, like you said, I knew Edgar Wright had said it's kind of his attempt at a horror movie, more straight one rather than comedy like Shaun of the Dead was.
Yeah, and there's like a chuckle here and there here, but this is it's probably the most serious thing I think he's done from a writing standpoint.
It kind of feels like it, and I really dug it for that. And when we got to the third act turn, I was like, oh, okay. He saw it coming. I didn't really see it coming, but I wasn't really trying to decode things. I was kind of just letting it wash over me, and I appreciated it. I appreciated where the film went. I thought it wrapped up very well. It was an engaging story throughout, and yeah, I was very appreciative of the story, but mostly, well, I don't know about mostly. I mean, obviously the writing plays a big part, but I think the story is truly bolstered by the acting of the people in this film, especially the two leading ladies.
Yeah.
They were fantastic. Anya Taylor-Joy carries herself like an actress from old Hollywood so beautifully, and
she fits right in, man.
My God, she really, really does. Yeah. And the leading lady is fantastic.
Thomason.
Yeah, I thought that all the supporting players were really good. The one that threw me, I gotta be honest, the one that threw me.
The love interest?
Yes.
A little bit. I mean,
you
a little bit.
Who I was going to say before I even said it.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know how great the chemistry was if I was going to assess it between him and Thomason, but but also, I mean, there was the written awkwardness deliberately by Edgar, because this is a story by Edgar Wright. Now, granted, he had two other people that helped him with the screenplay, and that is obviously a good segue into acting, which for the most part I thought was exceptional, and I really connected with the plight of this girl who so desperately wants to create, and I know that's something you and I, whether it's writing or music or whatever, we can both just find a little bit of commonality in the fact that she is trying to create against a lot of adversity, which I thought was really cool, and then I connect with quite a bit. And she gets downtrodden and upset, and yet she has this awesome spectrum of emotion that, and through her performance, she's able to give. And even as she's getting into the escapism of going back to this other time through whatever way it gets to it, we're not going to give any specifics there, but and also Anya Taylor, she has for whatever reason, not just with her appearance, but she has a bit where, and it's floating around on the interwebs already, so this isn't super spoilery, but where she does an a cappella of Downtown, which is great. She does have this very old school Hollywood, washed up Hollywood kind of thing, where she feels very much from a different era, which is strange for a woman in her 20s to be able to exude that sort of thing, but she fit like a glove in this particular role. And we already touched on Matt Smith is his name, right? Matt Smith. Oh, dude can be awesome. Vicious, man. And also the landlady, I thought, who basically takes her in and rents Thomason's character this flat. I thought she was great too. The grandmother was good.
Terrence Stamp even.
All of the supporting players, really, and even the mean girls who are kind of bitch facing Thomason's character when she first moves into the student housing, and she realizes very quickly, no, this is not for me. I need my solidarity.
I was so glad that he didn't focus on that part of the story.
Amen. Yeah.
I was so worried that was going to become a central part of the story, and thank God it didn't.
Yeah, and also one of the few like really legit laughs where she tells the lady, she's like, "I would never just leave in the middle of the night."
Yeah.
Packs up, boom,
Yeah.
leaves that spot. I thought that was good, but with the exception of maybe a little hiccup here or there from a supporting person or two, I thought the acting was really stellar, and Edgar got great performances as he pretty much has in every film of his that I have seen. He's always got really good performances out of everybody. Maybe not The World's End. Is that the third in that?
I like that one.
It's maybe my least favorite
It's
of
my
his
least
films.
favorite of those, but
Yeah.
it's
So,
So the next thing we usually talk about is the filmmaking, then we move on to the effects. And I have to say that the filmmaking and the effects are sort of intrinsically linked
they are.
in this particular film, right? Like there's not a lot of flashy digital effects. There are effects used, but it's more practical sleight of hand techniques and clever camera techniques.
I was gonna say shot choices, especially with some of these like up close bits of like people walking and just like seeing feet and just seeing and you know the movement of the camera, which is one thing that Edgar is always with his DPs excelled at, is very inherent here.
Yeah, and not only that, but the way he shows the way that our lead character is interacting with these visions, right? That she's the reflection
It was one of my
Anya
favorite
Taylor
things in the
Joy.
entire film.
And so when Anya Taylor Joy is like walking down these massive stairs, you see in the reflection it's her walking down the stairs and paused when Anya Taylor Joy is paused, and then during you see this in a quick shot in the trailer as well, where Matt Smith and Anya Taylor Joy are dancing, and then the camera swoops by, and then he's dancing with the lead character.
Thomason, yeah.
And that is a shot, like you see a little bit of it in the trailer, but that shot continues for like 3 or 4 more turns, and it's dope because it keeps switching girls, and it's flawless.
And it's
so,
stuff like that throughout too.
Throughout the film.
Not just that particular scene. Anytime there is this jumping into this, you know, previous decade, this other world of sorts, it's completely visionary, I guess is the best way that I could put it, because of the fact that it was so seamless and it doesn't throw you off, and it does feel like a seamless shot in a lot of these instances, and you know that they weren't, obviously.
Oh my god, it takes such preparation and cleverness and
great
forethought.
editing too.
Great editing. I mean, Jesus, seamless, and I just can't speak to the filmmaking enough, because it's genuine talent that Edgar Wright clearly displays time after time again. The fact that he didn't, like, he does a lot of digital stuff in some of his past movies. Obviously, Scott Pilgrim,
Most notably.
most notably with all the coins and scores and in-jokes and
Love that
on-screen stuff and all that. I love that style, but this has like none of that compared to normal Edgar Wright stuff.
And also the recreation of 60s London and just being in that area. I can only imagine the amount of money that they had to spend to get those sets looking
Authentic
as
as hell,
pristine
though,
and
man.
authentic and everything, man. Because
Crazy.
when you see Thunderball is about to premiere, and the performance venues where they spend a lot of time at, and even the costuming was tremendous. When you find out what this Sandy, I'm trying to remember, Sandy character that Anya Taylor-Joy plays, that Thomason is seeing a lot of her memories through, and this is in the trailer obviously too, but where you see kind of this almost like go-go dancer, like a, you know, performance troupe of sorts that she gets involved with. The costuming is great. All the backstage stuff is, you know, beautifully lit and authentic looking, and also just the flat that Thomason's character is staying at. And I mean, the red lights just blasting in and out. I know there were some people that are like, oh, this is going to be like Malignant, Edgar Wright's Malignant. That couldn't be further from the truth in tone and visual style. Edgar and James Wan are very talented in their own rights, but very different within their stylistic approach, I would say. And yeah, this film was a beauty to behold throughout, not just the actresses, but the entire aspect of the way it was presented to us. So,
yeah, it really was. It was a joy to watch. Like, that's the thing.
And
The
Anya
story,
Taylor?
the story was good. The acting was phenomenal, but it was told so engagingly that I just was involved the entire way through, and that's not something I can say about a lot of films. It was not what I was expecting from this too.
It honestly wasn't for me either, dude.
Yeah.
And you've seen me kind of slump at times in films, especially
I
midway.
checked a couple of times.
Yeah,
I tend to have a habit of you were engaged the whole time.
The entire
Didn't
time.
catch you asleep once.
Yeah, because even though I kind of felt like I saw a few things coming, I still was really uncertain and curious if it was going to pan out the way that it did. In some cases it did, in others it didn't. And so I was very locked in, and the music definitely wasn't a detractor either. We have to
Yeah.
get to it. You know, I know you were less into it, but
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm just
between-
not into 60s.
Yeah,
stuff.
the,
I mean,
yeah,
period
the Kinks
pieces
and
by
Dusty
itself,
and
but,
so much of the stuff that they were doing. I mean,
60s
I was
music especially
yeah,
is
I
not
was
for me.
I was really into it, and there's a little less to describe. I mean, when this does get a little more akin to what Edgar Wright said it was going to be, horror, thriller, whatever.
I
The
guess that
sound
third act,
design
yeah.
and the third act and everything is solid in that regard. But there are also instances where there is kind of a score, and it is a little bit of a synthy trippiness, but not of a heavy-handed, 80s throwback nature or anything. It felt much more modern, and it was only in a few scenes, and it was really only in the back half of the movie. For the most part, it's going to be a lot of recognizable tunes from the 60s and from this particular era. It's very much like that time warp transport sort of thing, and since I grew up hearing my mom play so much of that stuff, it was once again a Anya Taylor-Joy to listen to.
I wish I knew another actor's name that I could
Popsicle
make it
stick
quick.
joke.
Another
Dad joke. I'm not a dad. So
I know, you stole my thunder.
Yeah, which means I don't have an excuse for such jokes.
But yeah, guys,
This
I
was
mean,
good.
effects-wise,
This was
it's not, there's not a ton of gore until there needs to be, and then
Mhm.
it certainly does not shy away from it by any stretch. There's a good amount of gore when you get to that point in the film. So
And also,
altogether-
we're seeing people from the past too, and kind of the askew recollection of some
sure.
of those
Oh
apparitions.
yeah, there's
I
some
thought was
digital
interesting.
manipulation too.
A little bit, but it's more so like an out of focus, like filtery kind of thing.
Well,
on
it's
actual
more. It's what it's likely is
That's
a
what I'm asking,
blending of
yeah.
a couple of different takes of that same actor just brought down to about 50% opacity and overlaid over each other.
which
that
they
kind of thing.
yeah, which they do with Thomason and Anya a few times as well, where
Yeah.
they have the faces overlapped and everything, and just kind of the transitionary aspect. So, but
yeah,
a slick
ultimately,
flick.
guys, this is a very worth your time film. I don't know that you need to go to the theater to see it.
I think that's the only place they can see it, at least for now.
I'm
But,
just saying, I don't think
yeah.
it's one that you need to rush out to the theater. Like, I would have said, definitely go to see Dune in the theater if you can.
Oh, yeah.
I would not say definitely go to the theater to see this. You know
Yeah,
what
I mean,
I do say
Baby
see
Driver
it.
was very much a theatrical experience. This is a little less in that regard, in my
Right.
estimation. So I will concede that. But
If it sounds good to you, definitely make the time to go see it in the theater, because it is enjoyable. If you're a big Edgar Wright fan and you want to experience his films in the theater, I definitely say go see it in the theater then. But if
Support.
you're a casual film person and the trailer doesn't have you have your socks knocked off, then you might not need to rush out to the theater to see it, is all I'm saying. So that is all we have to say about this one without spoiling anything, you guys. If you enjoyed the video, click the like button and subscribe, ding that notification bell if you want to make sure you don't miss our other reviews going forward. We just put up our review of Army of Thieves, and I'm not sure if it'll have gone up before this one or after this one, but our review of the third episode of Chucky is also up. And then soon after this, I don't know how soon, but we will also be reviewing the new Paranormal Activity movie. So lots of stuff here on the channel.
busy bees.
Indeed. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you to our patrons for supporting the channel the way that you guys do. We greatly appreciate each and every one of you. Until next time, though, I've been Cecil Laird.
And gracias, I've been Jaime and Fuego.
And remember, stay scared.